This is Creepy and Geeky. Welcome to Creepy and Geeky. I'm your host, Robert, and on today's episode, Al Davidson joins me to talk about It Follows and Smile. But first, Donna is back to talk about what we've been up to in the last week. How's it going, Donna?
Hey, Robert. It's going okay. Just trying to stay cool. I am excited to listen to the It Follows and Smile.
It's a
Those
fun
are two of my
discussion.
favorite. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they fit perfectly. I'm not even going to talk about. I'm going to just wait and listen.
Well, yeah, I got a couple of movies I watched this week I want to talk about and a couple of trailers. I know you said you've got a couple of things.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and jump right in. On Wednesday, I got to go to an early access showing of Maxxxine,
Oh
the
man.
third part of the X trilogy. So um, I enjoyed it. Um, for me, the whole aesthetic worked better for me in this than the other two movies. Now, here's the thing. I enjoyed this whole trilogy. I liked
Hmm.
that. I liked X. I liked X. I like Pearl. And Maxine, while I do have some quibbles, they're very minor, but I think for me the whole aesthetic and the setting and everything like that just works more in what I like in movies than the first two movies.
So I
So
haven't seen it yet, but I
yeah,
keep hearing a lot of mixed
yeah,
feelings
there's a lot
about
of
this
mixed feelings.
movie.
Yeah.
And to me, and you can confirm it or not, but we talked about this previously. The Giallo vibes. I'm
Hmm.
also feeling a lot of body double kind of vibes going on in this movie.
There's no
So,
real body double. But the Giallo's in there, but it feels kind of minor. And that's what I'm saying with the minor quibbles.
mhm,
This movie I feel should have been a little bit longer. So they could um maybe sit with some ideas a little bit longer, sit with some characters a little bit longer.
right,
And that's all it is. I think they do a good job with what they do. It just feels at times it feels like a little rushed. But again, it's minor. They everything, hits its beat for the most part. I just like I want to sit with some of the characters a little bit longer.
okay,
And so that's that, and I feel like sometimes that's I get Pearl needing as a story needing to be told, but at the
hmm,
same time, I kind of would have loved a trilogy of just Maxine, X, then Maxine, then maybe something else
hmm,
afterward. I think that would have been um, a fun trilogy on its own, and then like give us a little prequel Pearl later on or something like that. But I feel
yeah.
like as a trilogy, and don't get me wrong, it's still a great trilogy. But that would just I would like to sit in that universe just a little bit longer with Maxine herself. So
Hmm.
I find her to
It's
be an
definitely
interesting character.
divisive. Like a lot of the people that I've seen online, either they really like it or, some of them, most people that I've seen, they don't hate it, but they, once again, like you, they feel like it was lacking a little something. I even had
Well,
somebody tell
and
me that
most
they
people,
felt like it was the
yeah.
lesser of the trilogy.
Well, and I get that, and I think that's why that minor quibble that I have with it, even though for me it's still my favorite of the trilogy.
Hmm.
Um, for a lot of people, those what I probably have as minor quibbles, those are things that they consider um enough of a frustration for them that while they still like the movie, it's lesser to them than
Hmm.
X and Pearl. So, but yeah, I mean, but I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it a lot. I other than wanting to see more, and then, again, that's all it is wanting to see more. I still think that they told the story they wanted to tell.
Right.
I just think sitting with some of the characters and some of the story a little bit longer would have been good, you know. But again, that's
Well, I'm
just
glad it
my
was
own
good at
personal take.
least.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good movie. I think, and that's the thing. Everybody I've seen talking about it, while they may not think of it as it's not their favorite of the bunch, everybody
Mhm.
says it's still a good movie. So, I
And
haven't
it may
seen it.
just be that they've had longer
Yeah.
to sit with the other 2 films and they
Yeah.
own them and they've watched them more, so
True. Could be. Yeah. And I think the other two did something like where this one doesn't seem to really be like X did something different um in terms of what it was presenting. And Pearl was interesting because you're getting this 1930s like serial killer thing going on.
Mhm.
So I get why those two movies are probably more favorites, whereas this one can be seen as maybe more a little cookie cutter. But again, I just like I like a good dark Hollywood story.
Mhm.
And it mixes with some true crime. And so I don't know, it all worked better for me aesthetically, um, and just story wise than the other two did. But I still love the other two. Like every single one of these movies gets a 4-star rating from me, so they're
Right.
all equal at least in terms of you know rating. But Maxine gets the edge for me in terms of the setting and the tone and everything. It just works so
Right.
much better for me.
Have you
But
watched his other films, The Innkeepers? Have you seen that
I
one?
have not. I've seen House of the Devil before, and I thought it was okay. I need to go back and rewatch it. It was one of those ones that I watched early on when I started watching horror heavily.
Mhm.
So I didn't it didn't vibe with me at that point. And sometimes that's the thing. Like I don't know that Ty West himself is a director that um I'm gonna completely vibe with on everything. But at least from these movies, it does make me interested in seeing his other work. So
Yeah, I would definitely give The Innkeepers a watch.
yeah, it's on my list for sure.
It's a
It's on.
ghost story that, you know, it creeps me out. I typically have to watch it in the daytime because it still bothers me. And it's got a lot of really good setting, like the presence, the overall creepiness of the set, and you would love it. I think you would like that
Okay.
one.
Yeah. It's on, believe it's still on Shutter right now, and it's on my list. So I'm gonna watch it at some point. Hopefully soon, before it leaves Shutter again. So all right. What's your first thing this week?
Well, my first thing really isn't a trailer or a movie or anything like that. I just wanted to shout out that, the Criterion 50% off sale is going on, I think. And it's ending like at the end of July. So if there are
Okay.
any DVDs, Blu-rays, 4K, Ultra discs that you
Yeah.
want, you might want to go and head over to, I think it's Barnes and Noble, but I think it's
Yeah.
50% off anywhere. I saw it on Amazon. They had it 50%
Yeah.
off there too. So yeah, I'm just excited. I don't know what I'm gonna get. I'm debating because I want to get some 4K. We don't have a
Hmm.
4K, setup yet, but I'm anticipating we will. My
Yeah.
husband is kind of gung ho about getting a new television, so
Yeah. Yeah.
I figure why not? We already have a PS5, so I mean we can watch all of the 4K stuff there until I get an actual 4K player. But yeah, that sale is going on, so if y'all are interested, you might want to go there before it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, unfortunately, I just spent a bunch of money on new shelves for my office here, but it's otherwise I might have partaken also, but unfortunately, I'm tapped out for the month.
I
So
usually don't get anything on the sale unless it's something I really, really,
yeah,
really need to have. I'm
yeah,
just
and I honestly can't think of anything offhand at the moment that Criterion has that I desperately would want. So
right.
I think I'm probably okay. I missed out on it. It frustrates me too because just like a month or two ago, Screen Factory was doing a sale on their 4Ks. They were doing a big 4K sale, and I missed
Mhm.
out on that. And there were a bunch that I want to get of theirs as well, and that I've had on my list, but I didn't have money then either. So it's like, uh, never enough money.
No, never.
All right. Um, well, let me. I'll go into my next one. Um, I just caught Beverly Hills Cop Axel F on Netflix, uh, which was a lot of fun.
It was. I watched it
Did you watch
too.
it too? Okay. It's so much fun. It's such a good throwback to the original movie. It just it really had that feeling, even though it's a 30-year later sequel, or 40 if you're going by the first movie. So if you like the at least the first two Beverly Hills Cop movies, definitely check this out. It's a lot of fun. It's got, I mean, if you're one of those people that doesn't like nostalgia bait type movies that like hit on all the callbacks, you won't like this, because this literally hits all the callbacks. The only thing it doesn't do is he doesn't do his old laugh anymore.
Right.
He actually physically forced himself to stop doing it. Like back in the 80s, because when people would imitate him, that's all they would do
That's
is his
all they would
laugh.
do.
And
Yeah.
so he was just like, he was so irritated with it, he forced himself not to do it anymore, which I think is kind of unfortunate, because like, dude, it was your trademark. It's like, if that's all they have that they can mimic you on, like, I get it, that sucks. It's like annoying that they always do that, but that's all they have. They're talentless hacks then, if that's all they could do. So it's but it's so much fun. There's like so many callbacks to the original stuff, multiple line drops
Hmm.
from the original movies, and they even do multiple callbacks to the songs from the first one. You got The Heat
They
Is
do.
On, and
Yeah.
Neutron Dance, and everything. It's so fun. I don't know.
It's
Like for me, it
cute.
was just so good. It's just like, I don't know. And it's fun too, because it does update the story. You've got, him estranged from his daughter, and then you got Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing a new cop character. You got Judge Reinhold, and the other guy, I can't remember his name now, who plays Taggart. So Billy and Taggart are back. It's just fun. It's just so much fun. So if you don't mind nostalgia bait, and you like the Beverly Hills Cop series, definitely check it out. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the female lead playing his daughter, Taylor
Yeah.
Page,
Yeah.
she's the one from Zola, right?
Yes.
Did you watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was
I still
actually
need to
really good.
yeah, I still need to watch
I,
Zola. I haven't watched it yet.
yeah, I loved her character. I loved the
Yeah.
chemistry between her and Joseph Gordon-Levitt because they were formerly together, and
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's hits all of those beats. We have
Yeah.
Bronson Pinchot and him doing
Yes.
the whole
Yeah.
surge thing, and it's so much fun. And then of course we get Kevin Bacon playing a baddie. It's not a spoiler,
Oh
guys. When
man.
you see the movie, you'll know it. Like you could smell it
Yeah.
as soon as you see it.
Yeah. And it's so
But
funny too, because like it was a weird, I ended up having a weird double feature this week of Kevin Bacon as a bad guy movies. So because he's in Maxine also. So
oh, that's right.
yeah. So
With
and he's
that
not
face,
he's
he
not
has to
full
be a
he's
bad
not
guy.
full and he's not fully a bad guy in Maxine. So don't I'm not spoiling anything. He's literally what you see in the trailers. He's just a
Right.
boring
Yeah. It was
detective.
fun. I really enjoyed it, and I laughed
Yeah.
probably harder than I thought I was going
Oh
to when
man,
I watched it.
it's great to see Eddie back doing something like this character. It's like, I know he wanted to get away from stuff like that for a long time, and I know the Beverly Hills Cop 3 was like a bad experience for him, so much so that like both him and Jerry Bruckheimer were like, when the new director was talking about doing this and everything, and admitted that he hadn't seen the third one, they were both like, yeah, you don't have to watch that one. So we want you to watch the first two, watch some 70s and 80s action flicks, and kind of get the tone down for that.
Yeah, just skip that third
So,
one
yeah, and I
altogether.
think they're very successful in doing it. I don't think everything fully works, of course, but it worked well enough, that I had a really good time
It
with
was
it.
enjoyable, yeah. And
Yeah.
I liked the chemistry between him and Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Oh
I thought they were
yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. And that's what it's so funny too, because I would like to see him just stay in LA now. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's always been one of those weird frustrations for me, is like every time he'd come
Why
back
does he have to
for,
leave?
like, why does he keep leaving? Why does he keep
Just
going
do
back
the
to
private
Detroit?
investigating with Billy or something.
Yeah. Or just become an LA cop,
Yeah.
so that I'm hoping that's kind of the direction they're going because now I'm not gonna spoil anything, but they are talking about doing another movie because I guess they had a good time doing this one that uh Eddie's back on board doing for another one if they do
And I
one.
also like
So,
the fact that they acknowledge, hey, you're not 22 anymore. You can't do all of this shit.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's so cute because it's true. You see things like John McClane in Die Hard, and even at some point,
yeah,
people commented, "Hey, you're getting too old to be doing this shit."
yeah,
So, I absolutely enjoyed all of them, and yeah, it was great seeing. It was like the band got back
yeah.
together. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was a ton of fun. So definitely go check that out. It's on Netflix now. What's your next thing?
I don't know. My next thing might. Well, I'll skip the other thing I was going to talk about. I'll go to this one.
Okay.
So, you saw back in the theaters, Godzilla and Kong. What is it? The New Empire.
New Empire, yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually coming to HBO Max. I believe
Oh, they
by the
are.
time this drops, it'll already be on.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to watch it, that's where you can see it. I am going to watch it tonight because I got to see Dan Stevens.
Yes.
That's my selling
He's
point.
so good in it. He's not huge in it, but he's good and he's in it enough that it was definitely a lot of fun. And it's just it's great seeing him because he just embraces the fun of it. I
Yeah.
think that's what's so great about Dan Stevens is just that he's just like, look, I'm doing some crazy genre work. I'm gonna embrace it. I'm gonna be in this movie about giant lizards and monkeys, and yeah, I'm gonna be the one random human dude. Let's do it. But
That's how I
he's
feel
definitely a lot
about
of fun.
Sam Jam. It's like he doesn't
Oh
give a
yeah,
shit. Snakes on a
yeah.
plane. He purely just wanted to do it
Oh my
because it was
god.
called Snakes on a Plane. He don't give a
Right,
shit if it's good or not.
man. We need a Sam Jackson Dan Stevens movie. That would be good. I think.
If y'all do that, we have to get paid. That's
Right,
all I'm
right,
saying. We
right.
TM.
We're producers on that shit. Come on. We came up with the idea. Nobody else
We're
has
the
done
idea
that. Nobody
people.
else
Y'all
has
do
thought of
everything
this.
else.
Right. All
But
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. I still haven't seen the I think the one before this. I've only seen bits and pieces.
Hmm.
Um, so I
Well,
really
you
have
should
to.
definitely watch that one first, then watch Godzilla versus Kong, and then watch Godzilla X Kong
Yeah, I think that's
after.
coming on before, so
Okay,
I'm
good.
I'm probably gonna just sit and watch it all night.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're definitely a lot of fun. My favorite's still going to be the Mike Doherty directed King of the Monsters.
Hmm.
That's just my favorite one. Hits all the song beats. Again, it's a nostalgia bait movie because it hits all the song beats,
Right.
and then it's also got like Rodan and Mothra and Ghidorah, or Ghidorah. I always pronounce it weird. But yeah, no. So that one's always going to be like one of my favorites. But these last two have been good too. But it'll be good, and it was great to see because Dan Stevens coming back because it's an Adam Wingard movie, which they did the guests together.
The
So
guest, yeah.
that had to be a lot of fun having him back on board for something. So, but yeah, definitely. Anybody else go check those out? I saw the newest one in the theater, of course, and had a fun time. So if you like, if you're one of those people who eh, hates all the extraneous human stuff, this one's got like mostly monster beat 'em up stuff. So you probably like it a lot more. So I like a good balance. So all right. I'm continuing on my Yorgos Lanthimos kick.
Hmm.
This last week I finally last night I finally watched the third of the three um Greek movies he's done. Um I watched Canetta, Dogtooth, and Alps. And Dogtooth is definitely far and away the best one out of those. Canetta was like his first one that he did, and it was just mostly dull. And then he just hadn't quite found his voice yet. Dogtooth was his next one, and that was a lot of. I wouldn't say it was a lot of fun. You could see. You could see
It
the
was
weird.
interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting and bizarre and weird and uncomfortable. But and so you can kind of see the groundwork being laid there, which was interesting because then in his next one, Alps, I felt like it kind of meandered a little bit, through a good portion of the beginning. It found kind of a voice towards the end, but even then, it just, I don't know, like it. Sometimes I feel like they go weird just to be weird,
Just to be,
and
yeah.
it doesn't quite land all the time. So I'm hoping because now I just have his English language movies. So I'll be watching The Lobster next.
Yeah, I
Um,
haven't watched all of the Greek other
yeah.
than Dogtooth. Dogtooth was the only one that I've seen.
I would say honestly, you can skip the other two.
Good.
I wouldn't worry about that. I think Dogtooth's his best of those movies, and I think it's his strongest work in
Right.
terms of where his tone eventually goes. So kind of the weird, uncomfortable. So, but yeah, so it's just so it was good seeing them. I'm glad I got to see them just to kind of
Hmm.
say I saw them and to rank them on my list on Letterbox that I'm doing. But yeah, no, I'm glad I'm moving into the English language stuff, which I know is a lot more successful for him. So, and I think probably a lot more what's it called? Um, Accessible, I guess. So
I'm really interested to hear what you think about the all of the other films, especially The Killing of the Sacred Deer. Nobody really talks about that one, and I know you're not a fan of Barry Keoghan, but
yeah.
he really gets underneath my skin in that film. I He just has a punchable face. I don't and his
Yeah,
character,
kind
I
of.
mean his character has a well, I'll let you watch it and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, we can discuss that.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully I'll get to watch a couple more of those this week. That's my plan. So um but yeah. Um I just have like two or three trailers to talk about. So if you have something else that you want to talk about, let's go ahead and jump into that.
Yeah, I might be talking about one of your trailers.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
But there were two trailers actually that I was going to talk about, so you might have both. But
Okay.
apparently they released a second trailer for Trap,
Okay. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was not one I
and
was going to talk about, so that's good.
it was interesting. This,
Yeah. It's the
I'm a
story
little
trailer. Yeah.
yeah, I'm a little bit. I was already intrigued by it, but seeing the extra stuff in this longer trailer,
Hmm.
I'm I'm really I'm really hoping it pans out. I already told you my
Yeah.
theory or what my family's theory is about it. And
Yeah.
from the looks of it, it's gonna be intense. I really and I'm just
Yeah.
so glad to see Josh Hartnett. I really am just so glad to see him on the
I'm
big
glad to
screen.
see him do something as an adult. um,
Yeah,
I just his that late 90s, early 2000s period where he
he
had
was
the really bad
everywhere.
haircut, and I didn't think he like, and everybody's like, oh, he's the new it boy. And I was like, he's okay, but he's not that special. And he kind of
No,
annoyed me most of the time. Every time he popped up, I was like, oh man, this guy again.
this guy
He
again.
he was the old Barry Cogan.
Yeah,
um,
and it was great seeing him as an adult on Penny Dreadful, and that's when I
yeah,
was like, "Oh wow, we need to see more of this guy like this." And then you didn't see him again until Oppenheimer, and now he's in this. So
yeah.
I'm excited. It does look very interesting to
Oh
see how
yeah.
this is going to
I
work.
mean, I'm in for a Shyamalan movie anyway. I mean, there's only two that I've never seen and one that I saw once and will never watch again.
Hmm.
Um, but and those two that I never saw, I don't have plan on seeing either. Um, but most of his other stuff I've been on board for.
Hmm.
Even Lady in the Water. You know, I was like, hey, this weird fantasy weirdness. I'm okay with this. Um, the only ones I'll go ahead and put it out there. The only one I did watch and didn't really care for was The Happening.
Hmm.
And then the two that I have no desire to watch is After Earth and Avatar, The Last Airbender.
Yeah, I
Uh,
haven't watched those. Well, I saw After Earth, and that was, oh my God, that was,
which is why I don't want to watch it, is because
yeah,
everything
you're
I've
not
heard is,
missing
oh my
nothing.
God. Yeah. So I'm glad he kind of went back to his, Like I know he was kind of getting away because everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're the secret twist guy," blah blah blah. I'm glad he went back and re-embraced that and just was like, you know what, this is what I'm good at, and I'm gonna double triple down on this, and I'm glad
I
that's
think people put too much expectation on the twist, and that's why they're let down. If you
yeah
just go in enjoying the movie for the movie,
yeah.
and the
Don't
twist
worry
might
about the
not be
twist.
great, but the actual film is interesting. That's
Yeah,
if it's
exactly.
enjoyable, that's all I need.
Exactly. So yeah, so that's yeah, I'm definitely on board for Trap.
So
It looks very cool.
I agree. So that was one trailer. The other one that came out was the Blumhouse Afraid.
Okay, that was one of my three that I was possibly going to talk
Okay,
about. So yeah,
so
so
we can jump into that if you wanna go ahead since I had that last one.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah, no, it looks interesting. It's a AI gone rogue. So I mean, it's kind of a story we've already seen. Like Megan and um, what's it called? The updated Child's Play and kind of
Hmm.
stuff like that. So I mean, it's definitely something we've seen, but it does look creepy and weird. It's like an AI that like is trying to like take the place of their mother, which is really weird. And there's definitely some creepy, like some very creepy things, not just the AI doing weird stuff, but it's like, would you like to see my friends? And it's like, and like it's trying to convince the boy and everything like that to do stuff and like to meet the friends, not to do weird stuff.
I know
Um,
what you mean.
but yeah, I wanted the audience to know I wasn't like being like that weird. It's but
But it
it's
is overall very creepy,
yeah, it's a
I
very
mean, and of
creepy looking
course,
movie. And John Cho, man, John Cho's in it, so that's awesome.
yeah,
I'm glad he's been like delving into a lot more horror lately because he's good at it.
yeah.
So so yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. It'll be very interesting to see.
It's definitely going to creep a lot of people out that have,
Yeah,
Alexa
smart
doing
homes and
things
stuff.
for
Yeah.
them. I'm interested in that. That's just going to be a wild discussion that people are going to be going
Yeah.
on and on about. I can just see it now.
Yeah.
But
See, that's why I
it
don't do
looks
the
great.
automated home stuff. So,
Me either.
like, we've got one Google Mini and it's in the bedroom and it just turns on and off the lights. We just tell it to turn on and off the lights or to turn off the TV or something like that. Literally, that's it. We don't have or answer some kind of question once in a while.
Yeah,
So,
no, I have an Amazon Echo Dot, and I use it strictly just for playing music. I don't
yeah,
even
there you go.
I don't want you telling me what my package is. I don't want you doing shit. Just play my fucking music. Go
All right.
away.
That's too
Oh,
funny. All right. Yeah, one of the other trailers I have is the new Donald Glover movie, which we saw the trailer for this in the theater. And then I've since watched it at home a couple of times, but it's called Bando Stone and the New World.
that looks so
Um,
cute.
it looks hilarious and also super frightening. Um, yeah, it's like a post-apocalyptic movie. He like seems to wake up, um, and nobody's around. And it's Donald Glover, so you know it's gonna be silly. He's actually directing it too, so that's really cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm interested, and obviously we're gonna have the soundtrack accompanying
his
because it
last
has a
music as Childish
yeah.
Gambino,
I don't know how I
apparently.
feel about that.
It's so
I really
like
don't.
he's been saying that he was gonna quit since
I
2017,
know,
and he
I
keeps
know.
not quitting. And I'm like, dude, just embrace it, man. Like, I get that maybe you don't want to be Childish Gambino anymore. You just want to use Donald Glover. Do that. That's fine. Nobody is going to hate on you, but don't stop making music. So, but yeah, no, it looks great. It looks like a lot of fun. Definitely go check out that movie because it's just it looks bizarre. So and it's right up my alley. So I
Yeah.
literally it was so funny too because we were watching it in the theater. And I literally leaned forward and looked back at Katrina and was like, "We're gonna go watch that."
Yeah, I'm definitely not missing that. I
Yeah,
literally love everything that he's ever done. Atlanta is one of my favorite
yeah.
shows, and this
I need to
looks
catch up on that. I only watched the first two seasons. I gotta watch the
really,
last
it
two.
gets
Yeah.
so much, but the last
Well,
two are
there was
probably my
so those
favorites.
last two seasons, the third season, the gap between the second and third season
Hmm.
was so long that when it finally came back, I was just like, okay, I gotta wait till it all finishes up. I'm gonna have to rewatch it from the beginning again just to, you know, immerse back into the whole thing. So because it was a good show. It was a really good show, bizarre and
Yeah.
weird and fun. So
Yeah, and the last two seasons get even weirder.
yeah,
And
that's
it
what I
and it
heard.
but it's weird. It's like surreal and crazy, but it all makes perfect sense. And
Yeah,
I'm really pissed that you can't get that on any kind of physical media. You can only stream it, which is like a pain in
so
my
annoying,
ass.
so stupid. Yeah. They and he did a first season of a show, a Mr. and Mrs. Smith show on
Hmm.
Amazon Prime also, which I haven't seen, but apparently him and the woman aren't doing it.
Nope.
They're done after this first season, but apparently they're still doing a second season of it. So it's like I guess maybe every season will be a different Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which will be
Probably
kind
not
of
the
a
way that they wanted to go, but that might make it a
yeah. I
fresh
think that was why
show.
how they had to go once those two once Donald Glover and the actress were like, yeah, we're not doing it now.
I mean, if we can
So
get a new Doctor Who every couple of years, why
right,
not have a new Mr. and Mrs. Smith? That might actually keep people engaged if you have
right,
different people.
exactly,
Once again, if y'all do this, we want to get paid.
right.
Sorry.
Don't take my ideas. Oh, that's too funny. All right. Did you have anything else? I have one more trailer to talk about.
No, that was it. That
Okay.
I agree with you. That Bando Stone that looks
Oh, it's
so
gonna be so
cute.
fun. Yeah.
It really looks fun. I cannot
Yeah.
wait.
All right. Well, my last thing to talk about is the new Hellboy, the Crooked Man trailer. So yeah, it's been known for a while that we were getting a new Hellboy movie, and that this was supposed to take a darker, more horror movie route, which is kind of where Hellboy kind of lies in this weird gray area where you can do the kind of horror esque stuff, but you can do
Hmm.
kind of the more superhero stuff as well, depending on how you want to play it. And I think that's what's kind of good about it. I think honestly, like there's a lot of people who have already seen the trailer and who are like, "Oh my God, this looks like a made-for-TV Hellboy movie," because they it's a smaller budget than the last two movies, and so the Hellboy looks more like just a dude with um like sawed off horns on his head. He doesn't have like overly like heavy face makeup
Hmm.
applied to him. But I think that actually works. So as somebody who's like, and this is what always frustrates me too, because there's so many people who are like, oh my God, this will never compare to the Del Toro movies and blah, blah, blah. And those are always the best. And I'm like, look, the Del Toro movies were good. They are. I like them. I own them. But they weren't as close to the Hellboy books. The first one was close-ish, close enough. And then the second movie just kind of went in like Del Toro's vision. Del Toro was like,
Hmm.
I'm doing my version of Hellboy. And that's fine. And then David Harbour's version, I love that version. I love the 2019 David Harbour version. That felt a lot closer to the comic books while still having, issues not being exactly super close. And that's
Right.
fine. I mean, here's the thing. Nothing's ever going to be like anybody wanting a straight up adaptation is almost always going to be disappointed. But this Crooked Man trailer, this looks from what I've seen people um did screenshots and compared them to panels from the comic book story they literally have like done it like almost beat for beat in terms of certain images recreated them in live action. So I thought that was cool. So
I'll have to
but
go watch it. I have not seen
yeah,
that trailer yet.
yeah, go check it out. But yeah, so it looks interesting. I'm reserving full judgment, of course, until I watch the movie,
Right.
like most people should, instead of just basing it on a trailer. Um, but so I'm interested because I'd like to see something a little bit more grounded, and because that's what's fun about Hellboy is he is a paranormal investigator. That's what he does. He goes around the world and just runs into whatever craziness there is. Um, so it's just the Del Toro and the 2019 movies. Those were kind of more like every movie was like a world-ending disaster that
Hmm.
he had to you know stop and everything. And but whereas this one's more of a small story where he's just trying to stop one bad guy. And
Who's the
so I
person
like it.
playing Hellboy in this one? Do you know who's the actor?
Somebody Jack Creasy, I think. Um, or Jack Kesey. Let's see.
I'm just curious because I'm gonna have to go and watch this trailer because you've got me kind of hyped.
Yeah, no, it looks really cool. Let's see. Jack Kesey, Kesy.
Huh, I'm familiar with
He
him.
he played Gabriel Bolivar on The Strain. Um, he played Black Tom Cassidy in Deadpool 2. So he's familiar with comic book and genre work and horror work. So um,
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I'm going to reserve judgment until I actually watch it, but
yeah,
I'm going to watch the trailer as soon as we wrap up because I
yeah.
want to see it
No,
now.
it's a lot of it was a lot to me. I mean, you don't see Hellboy a lot in it. You're seeing a lot of the horror things going on in it. And you see him a couple of times. So they it feels almost like they're downplaying him a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, so which is fine. Again, I this is a story about a supernatural occurrence in the Appalachians or Appalachians, however you want to pronounce it. Um, and so there's something going on that he's got to investigate and potentially stop. And so it's a it's a fun story that should be a lot of fun. I mean, I'm excited. Any new Hellboy is great to me. I'm a big fan. I've been what I was going to say before is all these people who complain about nothing being like
Hmm.
The Del Toro movies and stuff like that. I always wonder if they're people who only have ever seen the movies and have never read the comic
Read the
books,
comics. Yeah,
and so
possibly.
they don't know the vibe the comic books have and everything. Maybe they've read one or two and don't know all the stuff. As somebody who's been reading the comic book since it came out, I could say that this feels like Hellboy, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So hopefully it's more successul than not. So
Yeah, you sold me. I'm definitely going to check it out after we get through talking.
yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have for today. But before we go, why don't you let everyone know what you've got on your show this week?
Okay, so I'm still doing my Summerween series of films, and
Yay.
I decided, thank you. And I decided to talk about a classic, and I'm really shocked I haven't talked about this before. But I'm talking about Jaws, and I'm a
Oh
little
yeah.
late because it's after the 4th of July holiday, but that's okay. I figure I'll just fly by the seat of my pants. Who
It's still the
cares?
summer, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm gonna be talking about. It'll be spoiler free, but honestly, I don't know. Maybe there's two people on the entire planet that have not seen Jaws. So, if you want to come and give a listen to me, give my little theories about the people in Amity Island, and just hear me be a dork about a shark, you can come and listen to my episode.
All right. Yeah, definitely go check that out. It's her episodes are always a lot of fun. So if
I
you like
try to
her
be.
here, if you like her here, you'll like her there. So.
Well, thank you, Robert. But yeah, that's all I got. That's it for me this week.
All right. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll talk to each other again next week. And until then, stay creepy. On today's episode, I'm joined by Al Davidson, who is a queer and disabled indie horror romance and cozy sci fi author. She writes stories about ghosts, grief, isolation, queerness, disability rep, eco horror, space exploration, and the human condition. She is also the webcomics and manga editor for Comic Book Yeti and a regular host on the Ghost in the Magazine podcast. Welcome to the show, Al.
Hi, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. Following each other on the Twitter for a while.
Hmm.
Um, and I threw it out there. Was specifically looking for somebody to talk about these movies because I hadn't yet talked about them on the show, and I've figured it was a good time to do it. Today we're talking about It Follows and Smile, and
Two vastly different movies that are also very similar.
yeah, exactly. And we just had the teaser trailer for Smile 2 come out the other day. So I figured it was a good time to talk about these movies in conversation with each other. So because that was the thing when the original Smile came out, a lot of people were comparing it to It Follows.
Hmm.
And there's definitely some comparisons to be had there, but I feel like they're definitely two vastly different movies.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
so, but yeah, um, but yeah, I really want to talk about them together because there is some overlap. But it so it seemed like a fun conversation. Like I said, with Smile Two's trailer coming out, it seemed like a good time to do it. And plus, there was news recently that It Follows is getting a sequel as well called They
Yep.
Follow. So that
So,
should be interesting.
so original of a title there.
Right,
Like,
right,
it started following that Jordan Peele line of us, them,
right,
nope. You know,
right. But
yes,
hey, it works, you know.
yeah,
We'll see exactly how it works out and what the movie is. I hope we'll eventually get some kind of more information. I know the original filmmaker and Micah Monroe are back for it, so that's good news at least.
yes,
So,
yes.
but yeah, let's go ahead and jump. Well, you know what? Let's talk about you for a minute before we jump
Okay.
real quick into it. You are an author with several books and web things out there. You want to maybe talk about a couple of things you have currently available that people might be interested in?
Yeah, so I write horror romance. It's pretty heavy on the romance with lots of just horrendously awful things happening to these poor couples. Just to the point that I've had multiple people with my release that came out on my birthday last month, them saying common theme was I'm going to bill you for my therapy bill after reading this. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's like to me, I'm like, this is a normal Tuesday. I didn't realize it was gonna be this traumatizing for people. But my debut was When the Rain Begins to Burn, which was about a couple who find themselves trapped in their RV during a supernatural storm that has started to eat away at organic matter. It's been kind of likened to The Mist Meets a Marriage Story, which is kind of one of those weird genre blends of like, those two things don't go together, but I made them go together. And last month on my birthday, we had The Scientist, the Spaceman, and the Stars Between Them, which is a cosmic eco horror, which is set in deep space, and it's kind of got everyone has been like saying it's kind of got that fungal thing like The Last of Us. I'm like, not all mushrooms are The Last of Us. There are other mushroom related things in the world, but for a kind of basic comparison of it's a lot of like fungal parasitic type of
Right.
plague stuff happening in a deep space thing. And then yesterday, as of recording this, my cozy horror romance web novel, The Night Farm, its first volume in physical edition, had its official release date. So now the web novel has now connected to a nice little softbound edition of that too. And I have 4 ongoing web novels of various different things that I write, a bunch of short stories, and I think I have 7 more books coming out between September and February. So I have a
Wow,
lot going on.
that's awesome. All right.
Yeah.
Well, definitely go if you're interested in any of what she's just said. Go ahead and make sure to check her out. We'll make sure to have links on the in the show notes as well as at the end of the podcast. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into these two movies. We'll go ahead and start with It Follows because it's the
Okay.
one that came out first. Um, so it came out in 2014,
Hmm.
and I'm blanking at the moment on by David Robert Mitchell was the director. Um, and it's 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 a movie about a woman who gets a curse put on her through the act of sex. Um, and that's how it's passed. She's told by the guy who gives it to her that this thing will be following her and she needs to pass it on to somebody else so that it won't follow her anymore. And that's the only way to get rid of it. But if it does get her, then it comes back to him, which I thought was an interesting concept. Um, when I when I first got kind of heavy into horror, it was about 2018. I'd been watching horror, off and on throughout my whole life, and I like certain things here and there. I've always been a big Scream fan, big Evil Dead fan, but I didn't really dive into it as much until 2018. At that point, then I was like, okay, what are the things that are people are talking about, and everybody was talking about It Follows because it had been out for a few years,
Hmm.
and everybody's just like, that's the movie to see. And so I was like, okay, I'll check it out. And I will admit, I didn't love it the first time. I was just like underwhelmed by a lot. And I was like, why do people love this movie? And I think a lot of it, that the only reason why I was underwhelmed was because people hyped it up so much.
Hmm.
Um, and that I was just like, it's okay. There's nothing big going on with it. But I revisited it again a few years later, and I enjoyed it a little bit more. And upon this newest rewatch, I I'm still kind of middle ground on it. I like it. I think there's a lot going on with it, but there's a drag to it at times.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the only downside for me. I love the soundtrack. I'm a big synthwave fan, so the soundtrack is really cool. Um, but I think it's an interesting movie, and I definitely want to get into all of the minutia about it. But what is it? Because I know when you wanted to talk about it, you said you love this movie. So what is it about this movie that you love so much?
I, for me, like I'm the same as you. As like I didn't really get into horror in a like regular kind of, this is a normal part of my like media diet until I was
Right.
into my late 20s, and I started off with like survival horror games. So for me, the having the lull and the weird build up and things just kind of not, the uncanny valley kind of thing really is something that for me, that's where my horror roots lie, or those kind of like the long dragging corridors of PT
Right.
and things like that. And there's just something about how jarringly like 1 degree away from reality this movie is. Like they
Hmm.
have like seashell cell phones, and some of them look like they're from the 80s, and the parents are very like Charlie Brown. You never see their faces, they're never quite there, and it just kind of has this weird like purgatory strangeness to it that none of it just feels, it just kind of feels just off.
Yeah.
Because I was talking to, I was on another podcast I was on, we just watched Lisa Frankenstein, and it had that same kind of thing that to me this is very campy, it's very weird, it feels like it doesn't really belong in our universe, like it has dollhouse set like type of things, and it's very 80s and very
Yeah.
stylistically weird, and I just kind of like those weird that they're not typical. It doesn't feel like this is not a normal horror film that is in the likes of like It and Halloween and Texas Chainsaw. It's just kind of its own weird little
Right.
thing that if you, I mean, even when you look at like the movie poster of the cover with just the car, it doesn't scream horror. Like to me, that looks like a
Right.
murder mystery thriller. So it's kind of like one of those weird, like, I think I saw it at the right time where I was kind of like easing into horror. And because my first horror introduction things were the Conjuring movies, I'm like, oh, this is kind of something that's a little bit different, and it's really
Right.
weird, and I dig the weird. Like the weirder the better. So it's just one of those, like I can't really think of, other than Smile having similar aspects to it, I really can't think of anything that kind of like I would lump into a movie like It Follows, unless you want to do
Right.
like the movies all set in the same rundown part of Detroit with like Don't Breathe and Barbarian. It's like they're all on the same strip of road, but that doesn't really count.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah. No, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say it's just kind of a fun, weird, just like it's a brain off movie. Like, and sometimes you just need a good brain off movie.
Yeah. And I think that's ultimately where it comes down to. And I think that's where the problem for me comes into, is because it is a brain off movie, like you said, that I then get distracted. Because there's long stretches where they're because they're moving, they're constantly moving.
Hmm.
But it feels like during those moving things, they stretch those out, and I get why they're stretching it out. They're trying to do the passage of time and everything, and it's just like, I don't know. There's no For a movie that feels like it should be very urgent, there's no urgency at times, and which is fine. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I like rewatching it this time. Like I dig the vibes in it. But it's just like at the same time, it just feels like when, especially when you do compare it to Smile, Smile feels like there's constantly
Hmm.
something nuts going on, and something like there's like super urgent, like she can't even sleep. And so there's like and that's the thing too, is like this movie, like they they actually focus, and like she actually gets to sleep. And don't get me wrong, she's like surrounded by her friends and everything. And that's again the two differences between these movies, where in Smile she's completely isolated, and in
Hmm.
this movie, um, she's got this group of friends and her sister and everything that are like there for her, even if they don't understand what's going on. Most of them are there for her and just like, okay, we don't know what's going on, but we're going to help you, which is great, because so many movies are always about this isolation of the person who seems like they're going crazy.
Right.
The hysterical woman trope. And so it was good for this movie that they didn't lean into that. They actually kind of went away from that. All the everybody like gathered around her, and even the neighbor from across the street like came over to help, and joined up with them. And so it was an interesting movie for that aspect of it, which I appreciated for sure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely was part of that, like more of that slow horror movement that I like. You would almost put it like Hereditary in that kind of thing, where it's like things are
Right.
happening, but they're happening very like slowly, and it's a very jarring moment for about like 5 seconds, and then it's done, and then you're
Right.
back to things being slow. And I feel like that we had a big trend of that kind of in like the 2010s and the mid 2010 kind of area,
Right.
because and it just was that whole situation where I think where that's like that cozy horror genre came from, is like we want the scares and we want the atmosphere, but we don't want it to be like utter nightmares and the re-knifing of Jason Voorhees
Right.
and kind of situation like that. But yeah, it's just it's an odd movie. It's kind of, I think the only thing I could think of that's like close to this in the like the weird factor as of late has been Skinamarink, which it has that just kind of
Oh,
like,
yeah.
which I hated. I
I
hated
hate it.
that movie with
I
a
hated that movie.
passion.
Like, I don't hate movies, and I don't even necessarily hate this movie. I just felt it was like, and I get it though too, because like Angel from Voices from the Mausoleum, she loves Skinamarink. It
Of
speaks to
course
her.
she does. That's a very Angel movie.
Right? So and it and so it's funny because it speaks to her on a level that it just doesn't speak to me. I there
Mhm.
she has a lived experience that is the reason why that movie speaks to her, and I get it. But I don't have that experience, and so I don't like that movie. Just it I don't hate it, but it bugs me.
Yeah.
And I felt like I wasted so much time. It was like that movie. And what was the other one that came out right around the same time that everybody was going gaga? It was the found footage one in the desert. Um,
Oh, yeah, I know which one you're talking about. I can't, it has like a really simple name and I can't think of what
yeah,
it's called.
yeah, and it has like it's like by the end of it, it's like it reveals itself to be kind of more cosmic horror
Hmm.
type, and that's fine and that's great. But it was like getting to that point was just kind of like ah,
Yeah, it's like
it's
why is this hour and a half long movie 3 hours?
yeah. Well, and that's the only thing that I think of with It Follows is like if you could cut down some of that runtime, cut down some of that pacing and stuff, I think that it might work just slightly better for me. Which is interesting because you brought up Hereditary, whereas Hereditary, the slow pace works for me. And I think there's more going on in Hereditary is the thing. There's even when it's slow, there's things going on.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, they literally just hanging out, like they're in the car just driving, or they're at the beach, or they're so it's like they're doing things to like hang out and be with her and just be chill for a little bit, which I get. But it was just like, oh my gosh, something happened, and things would eventually happen, but it was just like, man, come on.
Yeah, I saw a really interesting take on this movie is that it's a coming of age story about the death of innocence. And so they're
Mm,
still clinging to that, like hanging out and still being
yeah.
kids and just having like the freedom and things like that. But now you have adult problems and like death lingering and things like that. And I was like, I looking at it, I was like, okay, that's kind of an interesting take on why they would just be doing a lot of like the
Yeah.
80s sitcom chilling and hanging out kind of thing while waiting for stuff to happen. And again, it
Right.
does have some of those vibes to it. So it's just to me, it would almost have lended itself better to being like a 6-part mini series where you followed it as it went down the line of people. So every episode was like
Yeah.
45 minutes, and then, oh, this person is now dead, then you move back down the line kind of situation.
Yeah.
Because again, it's that whole thing is like you can't ever get rid of it. You could be 20 people removed, but when those 20 people are gone, you're still on the list. And so it's kind of like, well, I want to know how we got to this point, because the lore is really cool, but we don't
Yeah.
get to see a lot of it because, the moron who's the one who gave it to Jay is not
Yeah.
helpful
No.
at all.
Well, and that's because I think the person who gave it to him didn't really explain it much to
Yeah.
him either. And so I think that's what's interesting about the lore is that there's something there. And how can you combat this? I mean, yes, you could give it to the next person, but in fact, she does. But when that person gets killed, it's back on her.
Mhm.
And then if she got killed, it'd be back on Jay, or not Jay, but the other guy. And so it's just this weird, like this domino, and then like you can never be comfortable because what happens if the people that are farther down the line all die, and then it starts coming at you again. So, yeah, it's a weird. I like the concept, don't get me wrong. And I like all the lore and stuff like that. It was just, and I don't hate the movie. I like it better each time I watch it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those movies that I'm just like, I didn't love at first. And I just was like, why do people love this movie? And I'm full of hot takes. Everybody knows me on this show. I'm full of hot takes. I'm the person who doesn't care for The Exorcist or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I am the same. But part of my other thing too is that I think a lot of it is like if you look at Smile, it's like, oh, you only have so long to be able to get this thing under control, and it like harkens back to The Ring of like, oh, you only have 7 days, and with It Follows, there's no timeline. So I think
there's no timeline.
Doesn't help with that like drawn out agony kind of situation.
There's no real urgency, and that's the other thing with the other things, like with The Ring, because The Ring does fit in this weird viral horror genre, but it's at least with The Ring and Smile, there's time limits. You only have so much time before you're gonna die, but with It Follows, as long as you can stay ahead of it, and you can get far enough ahead of it, you could be okay for a good while.
Yeah.
But eventually it's gonna catch up to you. But it's it kind of reminds me of like the slashers and stuff like that, where like the slashers are slow moving, but eventually they're gonna get you.
Yeah. Somehow they will catch you, even though it logically doesn't make any sense. They will find a way.
Exactly. But yeah, no, it's an interesting movie. And what is funny too is that the only reason why, because after the first time I watched it, I was like, man, I don't really care for this movie. But then I saw the director's second movie, which was Under the Silver Lake, and that movie's just bizarre. But I liked it. I dug its weirdness, and then I was like, okay, well, wait, this is by the same guy. Let me go back and rewatch It Follows. And then I appreciated It Follows a bit more because of that. And I was like, okay, this dude's got a weird kind of off-kilter, sort of semi-David Lynchian vibe. It's like millennial David Lynch. So I like, and I think, but I don't think he's made any other movies that I know of offhand. Nothing since Under the Silver Lake. And so he's got no. Apparently he's got another one coming out in 2025. So it's not yet out. But he does have one that came out in 2010 as well, which I have not watched. But yeah, but there's a lot to like about it. I do, going back to what you said too about the weird time period it exists in. It feels like it's very 80s, but then the one girl has that, like you said, that clamshell e-reader that she's constantly quoting from. And it's such a bizarre little device.
It's like a Polly Pocket case. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. And it feels just so anachronistic compared to everything else in the movie. Like everything else screams like the 80s, like, or 90s at the very latest. But then she's just reading this little, you know, pocket e-reader.
Yeah,
So
it's like it reminds me of like that one Kelly Rowland music video where she's like sending a text and on the phone it's like
that's right.
Microsoft Excel. That's like the
Yeah.
vibe that it's giving me whenever I see it. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And the kids look like they're dressed in the 90s, but the vibes are the 80s. And I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know weird level of like I saw another theory, which I'm like, it's like that whole Ed, Ed and Eddie theory of like they're all in purgatory and all the kids are from different times.
Yeah.
And so they're just kind of like stuck together in this like liminal hell. And I'm like, I don't think that's true, but I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just
Yeah.
yeah, it's a weird, fun little movie. And again, I'm one of those that I'm when I have a movie on, I'm usually also writing. So a good brain
Yeah.
off movie that I can like look at or like don't have to look at, I can just kind of listen to that has a soundtrack as good as it follows
Yeah.
and just like enough scares it'll like pull me out of like whatever I'm like working on my laptop. It's like it's a fun time. Like
Yeah.
I can't watch it like every like month kind of situation like I can The Conjuring. Like I can watch those movies over and over again and never be bored. But it's one of those I'm like if I turn it on or someone's like, let's watch something, I was like, yeah, we can turn on it. It follows. It's fine with me.
That's funny. Yeah, see, I'm not a Conjuring fan, so they're okay, but I don't find them as like awesome as everybody else does.
Oh
So
no, they're bad movies. I'm the first person to admit that like 95% of the movies I like are awful. Like they're bad movies. But that's the thing is like for me, I'm just like, these are fun. I enjoy
right.
watching them. And like again, as a horror romance author, it's very in that genre because it's all about the Warrens and they're doing their lovey-dovey thing and there's horror things
Right.
happening. And I'm like, this is kind of my vibe. But no, most of the movies that I enjoy are probably really bad. And I'm okay with it. Like it doesn't take much for me to enjoy a movie.
Well, I mean, but on that token though, like most people think the Conjuring movies are at least mostly good. Like there's people who don't like them like me, but there's people that are and have questions about it, especially because of the Warrens, who the Warrens are and everything. But like in real life. But I just find it interesting that so many people do find them to be really excellent movies. But I think it's funny that you consider them bad, but you still like them anyway.
Oh
So,
yeah, no, I know they're not good. Like The Nun is one of the worst movies
oh
of all
yeah,
time, and I have seen that movie like 10 times. I have a blast every single time I watch The Nun. If I'm like want a fun
there's
movie
some
that I
good
can just
moments
like
in that one. Yeah,
no, there's not.
I
No,
did.
there's not.
I
It's not a
said
good
good
movie.
moments. I didn't say great moments.
They're like, okay. I love that movie with every fiber of my being. It is every time I've seen it, it's been with like somebody else, and we've just had a blast just laughing at it. I'm like, I don't care. This movie could just be like the worst thing on the planet. And to me, it probably is, but I'm like, I will sit down and watch it from start to finish, like every
Everybody
single chance I get.
everybody knows I have questionable taste. I will champion Sleepwalkers all day, every day. And that movie's terrible, but
I think
it's
everything that comes out of my mouth, Angel will be like, your opinion is wrong. like,
oh,
like
she says
Angel,
that about me all the time.
yes. So you and I are on the same page.
Oh, it's too funny.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I said the Silent Hill movies were bad, and I thought she was gonna like fly up here
Oh,
and like
yeah.
like I thought she was gonna come after me. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I've only seen the first one once. I own it, and here's the thing: I only own it because Scream Factory put it out with a cover by this artist that I really like, Devin Whitehead. He does a lot of the artwork for the t-shirt company Cavity Colors, and um so I buy like anytime Scream Factory puts out something with his artwork on it, I buy it. It doesn't matter what it is, I buy it. So yeah, I just bought RoboCop 2 on 4K.
Oh God.
Yeah. I know the movie's terrible, but I bought it. I had already bought it before, but because he did the artwork for the slipcover and a poster, I bought it because I was just like, I have to have it.
Well, I mean, I have a whole bunch of those limited edition covers of the where they did the 4K releases with Deadpool on like the cover of Fight Club and one for the Planet of the Apes, and I think I have The Martian, and they just redo the cover, and instead of whoever's on the actual
Right.
cover, it's Deadpool. And like
Yeah.
I already owned Fight Club. I had 3 versions of The Martian. I didn't need one with Deadpool on because it's the same movie, but I own all of them because it's really freaking funny to have Deadpool on the cover of War for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, that's yeah, I saw those. Those were Walmart thing, yeah.
They're so great. I love them so much.
Walmart does that all the time too. They'll just like, hey guys, we're just selling the same movies we've sold a billion times, but we're gonna slap a new slipcover on it and we're gonna make you want to buy it.
I
And
mean, they do, it works.
yeah, I mean, I thankfully most of the time I resist because usually either I already own it and I'm not like you. I can't buy multiple copies, um, unless I'm upgrading. So,
No, I
um,
have like I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. I have 7 different versions of the Final Fantasy 7 movie. Yeah,
well,
I'm like one of those. I'm like, it's there. It'll look nice on a shelf, and it'll never be touched again, but it'll look nice on my shelf.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I can't say much. I've had multiple different copies of any of the Evil Dead movies and all of the Star Wars movies. Anytime they upgrade, like I've literally been getting, all of the Evil Dead movies from and Star Wars movies from like VHS on to now 4K. So
So you get it.
yeah, no, I completely understand. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a sickness.
Yeah.
but yeah, but it follows. uh it's which brings me to It Follows too, because I wasn't gonna buy this movie. But there was a version of it that a British company called Second Sight put out on 4K. And I was buying some of the other 4K discs that they put out. And so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna buy It Follows. I like it enough. And I've bought other movies that were even worse. So I was just like, let me buy it. And I mean, it's a good disc. I enjoy it, and there's lots of good special features that I haven't dived into quite yet. So
Yeah, it'd be interesting to watch like more of the behind the scenes of how they did, because what I heard is it was kind of like a shoestring budget kind of thing. So most of everything was as practical as they could get
right,
it. And it's like I think that's part of the charm of the uncanny valleyness of it too, is that it's like you could tell that this is just like a dude with a dream and a really low budget, just trying
right,
his hardest. And I can appreciate that because it's like, yeah, it adds to that weird factor of like this doesn't feel quite right.
right. Well, and it's just it's an interesting movie because the concept is that whatever this entity is that she is now cursed with, it largely just randomly follows her in whatever form it decides to take. Sometimes it'll take the form of somebody she knows, but most of the time it's just really random and almost always naked.
Like I said, they're
Um,
almost always naked. Yeah.
yeah, in some way, shape, or form, like there's always some nudity. I think the only one who wasn't nude was like the big tall guy in the house, and then the old lady.
And when it was her friend, I think at that
Yeah,
one point, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But
So
that's about it.
yeah. Um I did, yeah, I remember that. I forgot about that when the friend was walking up behind her on the beach. Yeah. That,
Yeah.
that was interesting because that one took me a minute too, because I was like, wait, is that the friend that's in the water? Like, because I couldn't at first I wasn't sure if it was the same person or not, but then yeah. Um but yeah, no, it's I think that's what's interesting about it too, because it's passed by sex, and then you have them showing up naked all the time.
Hmm.
It's like, what exactly is that? And it's so funny too, because people have put into this their own theories, and everybody feels like, not everybody, but a lot of people have felt like it's a metaphor for like STDs, which obviously is a very surface level um
Yeah.
way of thinking about it. And the uh director has gone on record and said no, he just it was just something that he thought was very um interesting without tying anything directly to it like that. It wasn't meant to be. He hadn't thought of it in any way, shape, or form other than it was just a good way to pass it. So
Yeah, because it's so unexpected. Because it's again, it has that same kind of like, oh, you pick a random VHS tape up, or you
right,
see like, or like in Smile, like, oh, it's you experience death kind of situation. It's just kind of a nice take on the just unexpected way to get cursed of like something that's just so normal and so typical that you don't
right.
even think about. Next thing you know, you have what did the internet called us at the snail assassin because it moves so slow and you can outrun it.
Right.
That's what they're calling the entity, and they're like, yeah, you can outrun the snail assassin, but it's still gonna catch you eventually.
That's too funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it is it's an interesting movie for all of that. I like all the characters. I like, you're not given a huge amount of time. Like, and that's what's interesting too, is like for all that time, and that I think is what's frustrating for me, is all that time that we have with them, we're not getting a whole bunch with them because it's not a lot of talking.
Yeah.
It's just hanging out, and sleeping or being quiet or whatever. And so I think that's why I get frustrated, because like we have all these moments where there could be talking, there could be, them trying to figure it out, and that doesn't really happen until the very end when they hatch a plan, to
Yeah.
try and figure out how to get rid of it. But it's, yeah, up until that point it's just like, you don't really get a firm handle on these characters.
Yeah, it'll be
You know,
interesting to see what they do in the sequel because They Follows has a lot of it could either be very clever or this thing could have like multiplied and now everybody's being
yeah,
targeted. And so I'll be interested
yeah,
to see what they do to expand in the sequel and see who all they bring back or if it's a completely new like we figure out what happens afterwards and they're all dead and
right,
it'll be interesting to see when that comes out. So
yeah. um yeah, I'm interested to see what angle they take on it,
yeah.
what they're doing. um I it is interesting too because she knows what she needs to do to get rid of it. She needs to have sex with somebody. um and for a long time she's resisting it. The Her best guy friend, who's been friends with her for years, since they were little kids, and who very obviously carries a torch for her.
Hmm.
um uh he volunteers. um you know I think,
Yeah.
for multiple reasons he volunteers. um but and she's just like, no, I'm not, we're not doing that, and so she ends up, the guy from across the street, she ends up having sex with him and passing it to him. And it's frustrating too because like he's probably the one you shouldn't do it for, because he's so like not very dismissive of it. He just doesn't truly believe in it.
Yeah.
And you find out that the reason why she did it was she'd already had sex with him in high school. So, she already knew that it was, good or bad or whatever. And I think, she was also protecting her friend. She was just like, look, he's not my friend. You're my friend. He's just some dude. Um, and I found it interesting too, because I thought he was going to immediately pass it on to somebody else. I thought that was like, the plan, just pass it on to, somebody else. And because he seemed like that kind of guy who, had multiple girls.
Yeah.
And so it would be very easy to just pass it on, but he didn't. So
Yeah, they're not working with a lot of brain cells in that group.
no,
They're
no.
really not. Which again, they're supposed to be, dumb teenagers that are still trying to figure things out. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like part of it's like, okay, that's part of the realism, but at the same time, it's like this is not beneficial to anybody.
Right. Well, and again, and I think that's where I find it frustrating, is because like you watch any other horror movie, and I get that he's going for a different vibe. He's going for different a take on a traditional kind of young adult, teenager horror movie. He's not going for the easy slasher stuff. But it's
Hmm.
just like I think that's where I get frustrated at times with it, is that instead of, trying to make a plan, they just kind of wallow in it. And nobody really helps. I mean, maybe they do, but we're not privy to it. But yeah, it just feels like they just wallow in it the whole time rather than doing anything proactive for most of the runtime.
Yeah,
Um,
so it's a lot of meandering and
yeah,
thinking and
yeah,
pondering and
just waiting for it to catch up. It's just like, okay, you
yeah.
guys know if you guys just sit here long enough, it's going to eventually catch up. Um, yeah, but they do eventually figure out something after the neighbor guy ends up getting killed by the entity who took on the well, at first the appearance of him um until he broke into his house, and then
Hmm.
it changed into his mother. Um, again, nudity, which was weird. Um,
Yeah.
like you're yelling at your mom, like, why, why are you here or whatever. And that was again like, so there's definitely some cosmic horror to it in a way
Yeah.
too, because and some body horror, because when it does, because this is the only time we ever see it kill anybody. And when it's like on top of him and it's like melting into him, um it was a weird bizarre, almost like that movie, the 80s movie Society. Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah, I did kind of have
Yeah.
that vibe.
Yeah, and that's a kind of the yeah, kind of had that vibe of what was going on between the bodies, and it was just like weird. But
Yeah,
go ahead.
it's one of those that, like, some of those choices are just kind of like, this is, you can tell that there's a lot of inspiration taken from other things and a lot of the choices that the director had, but I'm not quite sure it all melded together the way that he wanted, or he wanted it to be so left up to interpretation of, like,
Yeah.
you know, did, it get passed on? Is the person in following them right now the entity, or just some rando in the background? And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's which adds to the tenseness, but it's also slow. It's a slow tension.
Yeah. And
So
that's fine. Obviously this is a very popular movie.
yeah.
It resonated with a lot of people. It resonates with you.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and so it's a and that's interesting because of that, because even despite the randomness and the kind of um laconicness of it, that it's it's a good movie, and it's obviously hit enough people that they enjoy it in that way. um but and again, I like it, I just don't love it.
Yeah.
um
And I think it's similar to, because, like, when I think it follows my brain, they're not similar in like any way, shape, or form, but to me, I always lump it in with Happy Death Day. And I think it's because
oh,
Jay
interesting.
is like a very depressed version of Tree. They kind of have that same, like, they have a group of people, they're trying to help them out. It's kind of like very focused on a young female protagonist who, like, is slightly smart and is trying to figure things out and isn't just like, you know, a bimbo running around doing whatever. And
All
I think
right.
they feel more realistic, and it's nice to have
Yeah.
kind of like more of those female protagonists in horror that are kind of,
Right.
they're actually in danger and they're actual threats. Because, like, man, the stuff that Tree goes through in Happy Death Day is
Oh yeah.
insane. But to me, it's just kind of that same similar energy between the two of them. Of, it's like, these feel like people that I would have known in, like, my college days, and they have friends and they have lives and they have issues and problems, and they're more than, like, the whole cabin in the woods thing of, like, oh, they failed the Bechdel test in the first 30 seconds kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why it probably resonated with a lot of people, because it's like it's a young female protagonist in a horror movie who is out
Right.
there, and she's having sex and she's getting stuff done and she's
Right.
going through it, and she has friends. And it was just kind of, the
Huh.
2010s were different
Yeah.
when it comes to, like, the horror movies that you
Yeah.
had available. Because now, in, like, the more modern times, we have, like, Freaky, and we have Maxine, and we have Pearl, and we have more of those, like, stronger female horror leads. But in, like, the
Right.
2010s, it was still not as prominent. So I think it was, those kinds of movies kind of stood out to a lot of people, like, oh,
Right.
this is different.
Yeah.
Oh
No, I
yeah,
get that. And the Happy Death Day series is one of my favorites of all
they're
time.
so
Like,
fun.
that's
They're
I
so fun.
love those movies. They are like, yeah, no. I will not take anybody talking badly about those movies.
No, I love those. I
um
love those movies so much, because it is
yeah.
that, like, that. And I watched that movie back to back with Ready or Not, and I'm like, yes, let's just
Oh
have
yeah.
women doing awesome things.
Yeah. Hell yeah. No, Ready or Not's a classic
Oh,
also.
it's so good. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. But yeah, and I that's a interesting connection to make with it. Yeah, like she's a more depressed, like a very depressed tree.
Yeah.
Um
Aren't we all?
yeah, right. Um but we need Happy Death Day 3 so bad. Like, come
Yeah.
on. They got to make that movie already. Um but but I think it's interesting because once this friend does die, they and it's back on her now that they do, finally concoct a plan. Um, and I think she realized something to do with that um that water and I don't even think it's clear very much because I was trying to figure out like where did she get the idea necessarily that water um I don't know. I even know like that's what I'd like trying to boggle. It's not like that it's weak to water or anything like that, but just that water was necessary in helping to defeat it, I guess. Um Maybe just because she went out to uh the ocean or the lake, or I guess it's a lake because she's up in Michigan.
Yeah.
So it was probably Lake Michigan. Um uh they so she concocts this plan of going to the pool, this big pool, and they're going to plug in every old, electrical device they have. Again, really going hard on that 80s aesthetic
Yep.
because everything in there just looks old as hell. And it was an interesting sequence because what they want to do is like somehow bait the entity to get into the pool and then for her assumedly to get out of it and for them to then throw in everything so that it would shock it. Um which is interesting because they'd already shot it earlier in the movie and
Yeah.
nothing happened. And then they also still had a gun as well. So when the entity shows up and doesn't go for the bait and it starts throwing the things into the water to one shock her and or hit her with them, um, it they the friend, the guy friend, he grabs the gun and starts shooting blindly at it because he doesn't see it. He doesn't
Yeah.
know where it's at. And it's like, and then he ends up shooting one of the other friends, and thankfully didn't kill her. Um, but it was such a bizarre sequence. And he's like right there next to it, and he shoots it in the head, and it falls in the water, and then it's still alive because it's not a human thing. Stop shooting at it.
Right.
Then he starts shooting into the water and almost hitting her, hitting Jay. And it was like, what are you doing? You're about to like kill her. And then somehow he does end up hitting it in the head. And that is, we're made to think that somehow killed it because then you just see blood all in the water.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those weird, like, I feel like there's like a whole string of like the horror movie ends at a pool subgenre of things because there's that
Yeah.
whole end sequence of the end fight in Jennifer's body that takes place in the
Yeah.
pool too. And so I was like, I don't know if it's just like a cool setting or what they were trying, or there's like a cut scene maybe somewhere, like a deleted scene where they figure out like the entity doesn't want to like be near water or what, but
Right.
maybe it's like some sort of like based on a mythological creature that doesn't like water. Who knows? It's but yeah, it was an interesting thing just watching the floating hair dryer and then
Right.
the guy friend just shooting at the floating hair dryer and missing with
Oh,
stormtrooper
man.
level accuracy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he can't see anything. I mean, like the only time that they can actually see it, and that's when he shoots him in the head, is when one of the girls throws like a tarp or a blanket or something onto it, and then you can actually see the outline of it. And so it was just like, well, that's what you guys need to do is whenever it's around, throw something on it. Like she needs to like throw something on it or whatever. And so they can all see it and attack it or whatever. Um, but yeah, no, it's an interesting movie for sure. I enjoy it. I think it's good. I don't love it yet. But I want to, because there's so much about it that works for me. I just feel like that I guess that there's no urgency for these people who are trying to save their friend from dying. This friend who's, being chased. There's moments where there's urgency, but it's so like between all of that, there's this like low energy vibe to it that
Yeah.
is just like, what are you doing? Like somebody come up with a plan or something. So I don't know. It's so funny too, because there's other movies that are like this that have that kind of vibe where there's not much going on, but it still feels better than this movie at times. Like there's a movie, I don't know if you've seen it, a movie called Come True.
No, I
Um
haven't.
oh, it's really good. It's on Shutter. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. But it's also got that same kind of, slow vibe to it. There's not a whole lot going on. Um, it's got a great synth score to it. Um, it's but I don't know, somehow that one works so much better for me. That's like one of my favorite of movies of recent time. But it's just, I don't know. This one I want to love. I want to love it like everybody else does, but I'm not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's a little mellow compared to most horror movies. Again, it feels like
Right.
it fits more in like a psychological thriller with some. It's like 90% psychological thriller with like 10% spooky stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Happening.
But when the
So
spooky stuff is there, it's really good. Don't
yeah,
get me wrong. When that entity is like walking and like just, you see it and they're trying to get away and where it gets a little too close at times, it works. It really
yeah,
works. And the vibes are really good with this movie. Like the costuming is really cool. Just there's so much that works about it. And that end is interesting too, because she finally does, after this whole sequence, even though after this guy almost killed her by shooting at her in the water, she ends up having sex with him. And I like, part of me is just like, it feels like it's like she still doesn't really dig him. um
no,
but like that's what's like, it like he's taking it and he's like, yes, finally. And she's just like, dude, whatever, like, help save my life for right now, so that's fine.
yeah,
um
she's just so over it at that point.
yeah.
Like,
Well, and then he immediately does the thing that the other guy should have done. He like, and that's what's interesting too. They have sex, and then he immediately, the next thing you see is him like going down to like the seedier parts of the city where the prostitutes are at.
yeah,
And so, like the implication is that he's going to pass it on to one of them, which I find to be like really like problematic. um
yeah,
like really badly problematic, because you're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to pass it on to the first, like, prostitute. Like, dude, I hope you at least told them what was going on. You're not just like, because then that defeats the point. Then whoever you gave it to is going to die, you're going to be next. So
yeah,
it's just, yeah, like there's so many moments in this thing where it's just like, I want just a little bit more like information on. I think that's largely where I come at it from, is that for a movie that's got great vibes to it, it's lacking in some storytelling,
yeah.
that I feel is
I agree.
just needs just a little bit more of a touch there. So, but overall, good movie.
Yeah,
You know, fun time, great soundtrack by Disaster Piece. It's the name he goes by. Uh,
that's a great name.
yeah, right. Um, but yeah, no, it's fun otherwise. It's Michael Monroe's putting in a great performance. I think she's a
Yeah,
lot better in The Guest. Um, The Guest is a great movie. Um, and everybody should definitely go check out that one.
yeah,
Um,
she does a great job with what she is given, which is
yeah.
something which is my first thing because I was talking to somebody else about Smile and I said the exact same thing. I was like, Sosie Bacon is acting her ass off in that
Yeah.
movie for a script that is as not good as the movie has. She's doing everything she can, and I feel like Mike is doing the same thing. As like she's doing everything that she can, and she's giving it her all, and she's
Yeah.
doing a great job. But it's you got to work with what you're given.
I would say like with It Follows, the girls in this, the women who are playing her and her friends, they're doing a really good job.
Yeah.
The guys, not so much.
Yeah.
And they're doing okay. Like the one who's her friend, who just like giving her the long wistful looks and everything like that, looking like the wounded puppy dog and everything. The guy who's who feels like he's in the friend zone. Um, it's just like every time he sees her with another guy, it's just like, why can't it be me, dude? Because that's not who you are. You're her
Yeah.
friend. Let it go. um and so it's just, I don't know, he's doing a good job, but it just, I don't know, I guess I don't like the character, and so I think that's the largest part of it. Is just like, dude, just go away.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and we'll see what happens in the next one. Maybe he's not there. um
We can only hope.
right. uh but yeah, if you don't have anything else to talk about this one, we'll move into Smile now.
No boy. So excited to talk about this movie.
So see, here's the thing. When I watched Smile the first time, I heard all the comparisons. Everybody's like, oh, this is an inferior movie to It Follows. It's just taking the same idea and just doing worse with it. And personally, I thought it was in some ways a better movie. Um, because I think what I like about it is the general overall um idea of it, the same idea that It Follows has, the same idea that The Ring has. You're exposed
Yeah.
to something and then you get this curse. And then you have to figure out potentially how to get rid of it. And so I think that's what Smile does is, by and large, it's, I think, and this is what's funny to me about it when it's compared to It Follows, is it doesn't really feel like an It Follows clone. It feels like
Mm-mm.
a Ring clone,
Yep.
more than
Yep.
anything else, because it's not the same method of transference, but it's more of the, you've got only so much time, and you've got to either figure it out or you're dead.
Yep.
And so I thought that was more interesting for that aspect of it. And I didn't hear anybody talking about it in terms of comparing it to The Ring. It wasn't until I was rewatching it this time that I even thought of that. So I find that interesting. I think it's just because It Follows had come out more recently than The Ring had.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
so give me your thoughts on it.
So in theory, I really wanted to like this movie. And I don't know what it is about it that to me felt like it was almost like there was like some sort of like tonal issue with it, because it is so insanely serious about everything, like with the mental health stuff, and with Rose's character just being so utterly unhinged and not being believed, and like she does, again, Sosie Bacon does an incredible job with this, but it's
Yeah.
like but she's the one who's carrying the whole thing, and everybody else feels like they're in a horror comedy movie. Like they don't feel like real people. She does, but like her sister is insane. Her sister's husband is supposed to be comedic relief. That's what he's like listed as. Like he's
What?
supposed to be comedic relief because he's supposed to be like they're like the loony bin type of thing, and he's supposed to be this kind of like
He just
the
comes off as an
dumbass
asshole.
brother-in-law. Yeah, so he's supposed to be like the quote unquote comedy, and then I love Cal Penn, but it's like you feel weird in this movie. and
Yeah.
and like her fiance is just like, oh, one horrible thing's happening to you, I'm out of here. Like it just, everyone just
Dude,
feels like
seriously.
they all just feel like they are almost like unrealistic plot devices that are caricatures of other people.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is just so heavily relying on her, and she feels so isolated in a movie that has a huge cast. And it's just
Yeah.
kind of like there's a weird tonal thing to it that I'm like, I don't know whether or not this is supposed to be like, if you're meaning for it to be a comedy, because that feels really not okay for the tone of like the other things you're trying to say in this
Yeah.
movie. But then it's just like so serious, and like of course the big jump scare in the trailer is when the sister's head falls over, and so you like
Right.
look at it at first glance and you're like, oh, this is probably going to be like slightly silly, and because it came out so close to that one movie with like the Snapchat filter smile was a truth or dare or whatever it was that
Right.
had that kind of similar type of vibe to it. So I think it was one of those I went into it going like, oh, this is gonna be not as serious as it is. I'm like, oh, there's lots of things happening in this movie that I was not prepared for. Like it was a very jarring
Yeah,
experience.
and that's funny too because I didn't see it in any way, shape, or form as being anywhere near comedic. Like, and no, I do agree with you that pretty much everybody else in this movie is a very cookie cutter, very thin character, and is barely there to move from you know set piece to set piece. Um, and definitely everybody is um it leans so heavily into the hysterical women trope too.
Yeah.
And that I will admit, like upon this second viewing, annoyed me a lot more. Just how much it like everybody just kind of went away and
Yeah.
jumped away as quickly as possibly as they could. And so I just I didn't like this movie as much as I did the first time. And this is only the second time I've watched it. I still like it. I still think it's overall a good movie. I do think I agree with you that Sosie Bacon is definitely carrying the weight of the movie
Mhm.
solely on her, um, which I don't find is to be necessarily a bad thing. I do feel like Kyle Gallner is definitely helping a bit more. He brings a little bit more to it than any of the other characters. Or
Yeah, that's true.
but I think also his character's written better than the rest of them were because the
Yes.
rest of the characters are definitely written to be just these one-off, real quick um people. But I mean, again, I think part of that also plays into the fact by the nature of what this entity is, which is a lot different than the one in It Follows. The It Follows
Yes.
is literally just something that is really just following you, and once it catches up to you, you're dead. So you have some time to get away. Whereas this thing, it immediately infects her brain. And she's seeing things, hearing things. Um, uh Imagining people are doing things to her or talking to her or whatever when they're not really there.
Yeah.
It's putting everything, it's making her doubt her own sanity um on every level. uh my I definitely it's frustrating to watch this movie and to see everybody who she's a mental health professional.
Yeah.
And the fact that she is going insane, you would think everybody would rally around her and help her figure this out. And no one does. Everybody abandons her. Everybody just thinks she's going nuts and wants them away from her, or wants her away from them as quickly as possible.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very reminiscent of the remake of The Invisible Man, where it was just it was gaslighting the movie. And that's what this kind of had that same similar vibe of like she's like this is what she does for a job. If she's having these sorts of issues, like her like and granted Cal Penn's character very much tries to like help
yeah,
her and be like, hey,
he's the
you
only
need
one.
time
Yeah.
off. But at the same time, it's like she has a therapist. Why are you not like making her do more for her job because she's her therapist? And why are you not
Uh,
like sitting down with her and like, oh, do we need to have a counseling session? It just kind of feels like we're just gonna like offload you to your husband, who obviously is
yeah.
not going to be any
Not,
sort of
yeah.
helpful at
Yeah.
all. Yeah, she's her
Yeah.
husband or her
Were you,
fiance. I guess they're not married yet at the in the
yeah.
movie because they canceled the wedding or something. Like I
Right.
was so done with him like on the screen. I like checked out. I'm like you're here again. Go away.
Right. Well, and he's barely there. So, I mean, that
Right.
works, And I think he's a good actor, Jesse T.
Yeah.
Usher. He's a great actor. If you've seen him on The Boys, he does a really good job in that
Yeah.
as well. He plays really good assholes. But
Hey, if you have that niche and you can run with
yeah,
it, it's
yeah.
like the guy who plays Homelander and he plays like the exact same
Oh yeah.
character just without superpowers in that what Cobwebs movie that just came
Oh yeah, yeah.
out.
Yeah.
It's like you're literally the same person. You just don't have superpowers.
Right. Now, when you were talking about Invisible Woman or Invisible Man, were you talking about the one with Elizabeth Moss?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Did you not like that one?
No, and I'm not a huge Elizabeth Moss fan. Like I
Me
tried, like
neither. Oh
I
my
just
God.
don't like
I
her. Like
don't vibe with her at
I
all. I don't know
don't
what it is
either.
about her. She just bothers me.
Me too.
There's certain actors who are like that, who like people just love, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, no,
Like Barry Keegan's one of those other ones too.
yeah,
Like
no.
right now, everybody's talking about, and I'm like, I can't, dude, I can't. So um I'm just like,
Yeah,
nope.
no.
Like everybody's like going on about Saltburn. I'm like, I'm not ever watching that movie because he's in it. So but I did watch that Invisible Man because everybody's like, oh my God, it's such a great movie. And I'm like, I watched it and I was like, well, one, it's hard to get past her. And
Yeah,
then two, it was just, that was a hard watch. It was like,
yeah,
I don't understand why everybody loved it. I get the premise is interesting. Don't get me wrong. I did enjoy that premise, but at the same time, yeah, like you said, it's gaslighting the movie. Um, it's just, yeah, no, it was, yeah,
yeah. Not a fan of that kind of situation. And again, I think if it was one of those where I don't know if it was something about Smile, if it would have been like a smaller cast or something about it, because it was just one of those things that there it felt like there were so many people and I can't remember a single one of them. Like Carla from Scrubs has an amazing piece in
yeah,
it, and I forget she's in it until I like go back and like either watch a recap or rewatch. I'm like, oh yeah, you have like a 5 second scene in here, and you're
yeah,
really good, but you don't matter. Like, and I think the
yeah,
other thing too is that I didn't like that this thing, whatever it is, like talks. Like I don't like that it would like took on the role of the therapist and did like the
yeah.
whole like drooling mouth thing and talking thing, which I understand because the VFX people who did this movie also did the VFX for Alien 3. So that was an homage. I
Mm,
get it. I get it. Like Alien's a phenomenal franchise. Alien 3, not so much. We're not going to talk about that. But but it's also like this it looks so ridiculous. Like I am more scared. Like I'm okay with a giant naked grandma trope compared to the Snapchat filter faces.
yeah,
Like it doesn't feel as scary to me. And like the opening segment with the girl that starts the whole thing is
yeah.
phenomenal. And then
Oh
after that,
yeah.
it's just kind of like there's a lot of things happening and everybody is being just awful and Sosie's always sad and I'm like I don't understand what's happening. It's just
But
like
so like, and I think part of the only reason why I dug this one more at the time when I first watched it was one, it's constantly moving. There's
mhm.
something going on. She's trying to figure it out. She has to,
Yeah,
and there is maybe not a way to stop it, but maybe a way to, have it skip you. That she figures out. And so I like that there was a way to figure things out. And it wasn't just we just got to stay as far ahead of this thing as possible.
yeah.
Um, because that's just life. Staying ahead of something is what we're all trying to just stay one step ahead of death. Um,
Yeah.
so, um, but I think that's why I like this one in some ways a bit more because it was Susie Bacon's doing a great job at what she's doing. There's a story, there's a mystery in there to figure out potentially how to get rid of this. Um, and then um, so there's a lot going on. There's a lot of movement. There's never any real slow periods, and when there are slow periods, it's even still it's jarring. There's things going on. There's
Yeah.
weird shit going on. And in the theater too, there's moments where the sound design is really, really off-putting. And it's part of the scare. Now, rewatching it at home, I don't have movie theater level,
Yeah.
equipment. So I don't jack my sound way up, which they do. So when those moments hit, they weren't as bad. Which was fine. But it's just because I I think that it's a cheap trick sometimes to like do a extremely loud sound at a theater to jar people because that's not a
Yeah.
scare to me. That's just you using sound against us, and
Yeah.
like some of us have sensitive ears. Um so
Well, and it's so funny because like I have an auditory processing disorder. So like there's certain noises and sounds and things that my brain just doesn't catch. And
yeah.
I was watching the remake of Pet Cemetery and the subtitle said children creepily whispering. I was like, no, they're not. I was like, so they can put in all sorts of things and I'm not gonna catch it. So like the whole sound design relying for scares thing, it's either gonna I'm gonna miss it because I'm zoned out, or
Right.
it's just gonna be way too jarring.
Right.
Or
Well,
you
and
have
that's what
like a quiet place where I don't have the system required for that in my,
yeah.
13-year-old flat screen TV is not gonna handle that kind of sound design.
I mean, here at home, I have a surround sound system. It's not the best. It's a Roku, so it's not like super awesome, but it works well, And if I turn it up, I can hear everything and get those moments and stuff, and that's great. But I'm not likely to usually turn it up very loud because usually I'm
Right.
watching things late at night, and I have family, so that's why I have the captions turned on, which always
Yep.
like I go to the movies all the time. I go pretty much every week now. It is one thing that bothers me is when I can't go to an open caption. And I would say 95% of the time I'm going to regular movies without captions. So I'm always like, well, this is gonna be real fun when I can watch it on at home and I can understand what the hell everybody's saying.
Yeah, that
So
was
because
my first experience back in theaters after COVID was going to go see The Green Knight. And I had seen The Lighthouse. And at that point, I was like, I
oh,
know I'm not going to be able to understand a single thing that's going to be said in this movie. And I'm just going for Dev Patel because I will see anything that man is in. I will go see Dev Patel for Dev Patel. But my closed caption machine broke. And so
oh
I didn't
no.
understand a single thing that happened in that whole movie. It was
Oh
pretty, but it took me until it came out in like on Blu-ray for me to watch it. I'm like, oh, I missed so many things.
yeah.
I was like, so that's what the story was. I was just looking at Dev. Like, there's plot here. Who knew?
Well, I'm assuming you went out and saw Monkey Man then.
No, I didn't get a chance to,
Oh
and
no.
it's on my list of things to watch. It was just one of those that I just don't do the whole theater experience anymore because I
No, I
always
don't
end up
blame you.
sick afterwards. But I did go
Oh,
see the new Planet of the Apes in theaters, and with that was a cool experience to go see that with the sound system.
yeah.
I would not watch that one at home because there's just so much going on that you're gonna miss. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. I'm like, I can't hear what's going on, and it's cool. You have cool sound scares type of stuff, but like,
Yeah.
I can't see the smiling half face in the background that's gonna scream at you in like 3 seconds, and and
Yeah.
then Sosie's gonna scream and she's gonna fall into something, and we're gonna do that 3 more times throughout the whole movie. Like,
Yeah.
like the
No,
monster design at the end was pretty cool. I will
yeah.
admit that. Like that thing looked terrifying.
Yeah. No, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
Um I like the bleak ending.
Yeah.
Um, the I anytime a movie will go into that you think you're gonna get the main character is gonna escape and get it figured out and then they don't and it goes bad. I love that. That is 100%. I'm down for that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm down for the happy ending as well, but I'm always good for a bleak ending as well. So,
Yeah, I'll be interested again. I'll be interested to see what they do for the sequel because my favorite running theory for this movie is that she passed the curse on to her nephew. And that's the movie I want to see.
oh,
I want to
interesting.
see because she was like there and with the cat thing, and the cat thing was his big traumatic moment. And that's why when she's like freaking out in the car, they show that brief glimpse of him kind of out of nowhere
Yeah.
for a minute. Everyone's kind of like going, "Ooh, is the nephew instead of being the detective boyfriend? It'll be about the nephew." I'm like, I want to see children horror. Like, give me more of that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they'll do it, but that would be really cool.
Yeah, I think they're gonna go for the obvious and pass
Yeah.
it on to Kyle Gallner. I don't think Kyle's gonna be in the movie very long either. I think it's
No.
gonna be one of those things where it's passed to him, he's gonna pass it on to the singer and everything, and then we're gonna get that movie. Um,
It'll be like that one Halloween movie where they kill Laurie in the first 5 minutes.
right,
So it's like, hey, and he gets paid the most money out of everybody.
right.
So,
Let's hope anyway. He needs a good like he needs. I don't know. Like Kyle Gallner, I feel like he doesn't get the respect he deserves, and the like from horror people. Yeah, but like
yeah.
in the broader horror world, it's like he needs. I don't know. He needs a good series or something like that that would be really cool for him. Um, but yeah, no, I like the movie. I don't. There's a lot that I don't like about it. like we talked about. But I think overall it's not a bad movie. It's like with It
No.
Follows. I think that, you know, they both have their good and their bad to them. I think Sosie Bacon's doing a great job in it. I think that, you know, the mystery aspect of it, trying to figure out how to stop it, is fun. Well, maybe not fun, but it's interesting. Um,
It's well executed.
yeah. And you know, but I definitely, the hysterical woman trope thing bugs me, because it's just like it's been so played out. Like if you're gonna do something like that, gender flip it, make it the dude who's not believed, you know. And so which I
Or
mean
someone
they've
who's
done
not,
too, but
yeah, someone who's not respected in that field.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
make her like a waitress or something to where it's not the point, because it didn't feel believable that like she has all these professionals around her. Like
yeah,
she's exhibiting these signs and saying there's something wrong, and it's out of nowhere.
right.
That's like that's the most unrealistic part of the movie, not the giant creature eating her and extending her jaw and climbing into her face. It's the fact that none of her peers believe her.
Yeah. Wait, or help her. I mean, that was the
Right.
biggest thing, because like even she asks the doctor, she's like, "Oh, this psychiatrist, her therapist or whatever." You know, she goes to her and she's like, "Okay, well, tell me what's going on." She tells her and everything, and the woman's just like, you know, and she's trying to get meds, you know, and the woman's just like, "Well, no, because you haven't been coming to me, and I really think you should have been this whole time. I'm not going to help you out at all." So it was just like so frustrating. It's just like the worst therapist crap ever. So, and
Which
it
I don't know if that's like a play on like how actual life is, because I just had a conversation with a friend who had that exact same issue
I
in real life.
I know.
So, like, I don't know if that's a statement or just bad writing. Who knows?
Right. Well, and then it's frustrating too, because you can see it from both angles. You know, if
Yeah.
somebody's trying to get meds for some reason from a doctor, the likelihood is they probably don't, not necessarily, they don't need them or whatever. But you would figure somebody who is a professional, who understands everything and is a professional in that same field, regardless of however you think of that person and think they should be doing more therapy, maybe they understand that they need drugs for something because of some reason that they just, you know, can't articulate yet. So,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
One
so
would
that
think.
that's what's always like so frustrating. It's just like, come on. Like, and again, like everybody on every level just did not believe her,
No.
except for Kyle Gallner, who, you know, he's just like, look, something's obviously going on. What's going on? So,
Well, and it's also like again, it's that sad pining love interest thing that hits and it follows. It's just like he just really is like super into her. It's like, yeah, okay, I'll believe this randomly weird story because you're hot.
right,
like, like he's the dude from It Follows grown up and turned into a cop.
right.
That's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not wrong.
like
but again but again, I mean, they do go into it though, like they get into their whole relationship, that,
yeah,
you know, that she was into him, he was into her, and that she, because of her, you know, issues, that she was the one who left, and pushed him away. And so it's not really a case of she didn't like him. It's that she liked him too much, and she wasn't um a she wasn't comfortable with her own self,
yeah.
to allow him in. She still felt broken and didn't want to drag him into that. Um, you know, and so, and I get that, but you know, that's also his choice too, you know. So, but
You know,
yeah,
and now he's cursed.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what you get, dude.
That's what you get for falling in love. Stop
Right?
it.
It's a curse, just like everything else. But yeah, no. But I think it's an interesting movie. I like I said, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the first time. I think the first time, again, the theatrical experience
Yeah.
helped it because of those sounds. As much as I hate when they do loud sounds like that, because I think it's sometimes a cheap trick, that it worked well enough. And so I think that part of it helped it. And just overall, I like that whole vibe, the whole thing with the ring and everything else, to where there's something that's coming for you, but you might be able to stop it. So Whereas with like It Follows, the only way to stop it is to pass it on, but even that's not 100%, because if that
Yeah.
person gets killed, it's coming right back to you. So yeah, it's a and so like I and so that's what's interesting about these two movies is that yes, they're similar, but they're very different in so
Yeah.
many other ways. That when you compare them to each other, I think when Smile came out, it was definitely an unfair comparison.
Yeah. Oh, I
Um,
agree.
it definitely needed to kind of just be like, don't compare it to It Follows. If you want to compare it to something, compare it to The Ring. But even then, don't compare it. It's something different. It's a different entity all itself. Um, but yeah, it is what it is. People are always going to do that, and they're going to find some way to you know complain about something.
Yeah. And it
But
grossed a ton of money anyway,
It
like
did,
even
and
even
it's
with
getting a
it.
sequel.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that was the thing. It was so funny too because everybody's like, "Oh, this movie's terrible," but it's like, yeah, but y'all went to see it, and now it's getting a
Hmm.
sequel. So, and the sequel looks interesting. Like, I'm
Right.
not gonna lie, the sequel looks awesome. I'm loving the whole like pop star vibe of it. That she's getting the curse and that she's got to figure it out. So I'm like, I love that whole angle because that's just a whole different animal. And goes into what we were saying before about like at least that with this first one, being a mental health professional, she should have had that kind of you know support system there and
Yep.
didn't. And then in this one, this is going to be somebody who's kind of, you know, I don't know how the character is as a person in this movie yet, but depending on how she is with her friends and family and such and everything like that, she could also be out in the cold with nobody to turn to. So it'll be an interesting movie. I would like to see them take more of a, maybe people are actually helping her vibe, but you never know.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're like in that kind of like pop story kind of thing, it's like, oh, you have people that are going to be more apt to believe wilder stories, I
Right.
think, kind of
I would hope so, but
situation. But it's one of those that like,
but you also have a lot of fake people around you too, like
yeah,
people who say they're there for you but aren't really in the long run. So
it'll be interesting, especially for like because when I said they're thinking like, oh, the pop star like horror movie type of thing, my brain just automatically defaults to that new Shyamalan movie. And I'm like, this
yeah,
is not.
Trap. Yeah.
I was like, gosh. Like that man. Someone needs to stop funding that man. It's like the same thing of like,
Oh,
oh,
stop it. I like
you
Shyamalan.
I'm like you paid for a Smile, so now we're getting a sequel for that. You don't want any more Terrifier movies, but y'all keep going to go see them, and y'all keep going to
I
go see
don't.
Shyamalan. Like nobody wants more Terrifier movies. We don't need a third one. We really don't.
Apparently there's enough people who really do love those movies. I'm like, I don't know why, but whatever. I'm
No.
y'all can keep those. That's fine. But and
The
I will say I did watch this. I did watch them. Now I didn't pay for them. They were on whatever I watched them on. But streaming or whatever. But it was the second movie is better than the first movie. It's still not great, but it
right.
was better. So I might watch the third one, and just to see if they've gotten even better and maybe getting to some place where I might vibe with it. Because so far, no. There, don't get me wrong. The final girl, in the second one, I really dug her. The actress and the character and everything was that aspect of it was really cool. Outside of that, the rest of the movie was just kind of like, no, thanks.
Yeah, I like the memes. I'm here for the memes. My Instagram has just become nothing but like sassy Terrifier memes, and it's so funny. Because I'm like, yeah, this does feel like my personality in a lot of ways.
I hate
I was
this
like,
guy, but he really speaks to my soul.
yeah, he came to the con that I was at in March. I was like, please don't let him walk by my table because I can't. I didn't think I would have a panic attack if I saw Art the Clown walking by my
That's so
table.
funny.
I'm like, nope. Like, no. It's not even the clown thing. It's just the presence.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so funny too, is like these movies are so horrible and just like, ugh. But like apparently like the guy who writes and directs it and the actor are like some of the most friendly, most normal people ever, which is great. Like I love that about that is that you can have these two sides,
Yeah.
that you can kind of, cathartically expel this like blech out of you on film and just be a normal everyday other dude, and be like the friendliest guy ever. But it's just like I don't know. Just those movies just do not speak to me at all.
No. And again, I think that's again the nice thing about horror is it's so broad and
Yes.
it's so subjective that even if it's like a movie that like I didn't enjoy Smile all that much, it was still like I still watched it. I still, it was an interesting time. It had a lot of interesting things to it. I can appreciate it for what it is. I'm not a slasher person. That's just not me. I prefer my demonic possessions and haunted house movies. Like, give me Kristen Stewart in Underwater, and I will eat that up. Like that is the least horror movie on the planet. I'm like, I will watch this movie on repeat. It'll be fine. Like anything with Nick Cage in it, doesn't matter how bad it is. If it's in a horror genre, I will watch it.
That's
Like,
funny.
but it's just that's the nice thing is there's just so broad of and you used to have that same like genre of things stalking you of The Ring and It Follows and Smile and whatever else is out there, and they're all different enough that people can be like, yeah, this is kind of my thing and I enjoyed this one and didn't, and it's just it's a broad enough genre that there's just something out there for everybody, which I appreciate.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's what's really fun about everything is like, you know, everybody knows I might not vibe with, The Exorcist or The Shining or whatever. And those are like the
I hate The
gods.
Shining. I hate The Shining. I hate that movie.
See, you and we're on the same wavelength. That's really interesting.
I tried so hard here.
Uh, I've
I have
watched it.
DNF'd every
Yeah.
Stephen King book I have started. I have 10 different books and I cannot
Oh,
do
see,
Stephen
I like
King.
Stephen King. I like his work and everything. I've been a big fan for a long time. The Dark Tower stuff, especially, and I can't wait for Flanagan to get working on that. But yeah, I just The Shining and The
Mm,
Shining for me is like it's two pronged. One, I don't like Jack Nicholson. Never
nope.
have, never will.
Nope.
I feel like he plays the same character, which is
Yep.
this character
Yep.
in every movie. Um, and then that's literally what he's been doing. He's just playing Jack Torrance in every movie from this point on. Um, and I've never been, and as much of as a film fan as I am, I've never been a fan of Kubrick.
Nope.
I know
Same.
that's sacrilege. I just don't care for his movies. They're not interesting to me. I've watched a few of them. I'm probably not going to watch any others. Um, and it's just one of those things where they don't speak to me.
No.
And I'm not going to shit on anybody else who likes that kind of stuff because
No.
you know like what you like. Like my friend Donna, she likes The Shine, or I don't know if she likes The Shine. I think she likes The Shining. She likes A Clockwork Orange. And I'm like, more power to you. I'm never going to watch that movie. Don't
No.
care. It looks like nothing I ever want to watch.
No.
Um,
I did
so
enjoy Doctor Sleep. Doctor Sleep was great.
yeah, I thought Doctor Sleep was good.
Yeah, I saw
But
it in
if
theaters on opening night
but
at like midnight. So it's kind of like a fun, like nostalgia. Like I'm sure if I watched it
yeah,
now, I'd be like, this is kind of nothing. But it's that
yeah,
like again the same thing with The Nun. I saw The Nun opening night in theaters with my best friend, and it was insane. And so it's like I have just like nice warm fuzzies when it comes
right.
to that. But I'm just like, nah, I can't do The Shining. I just can't. It's so
Oh
long,
man, yeah,
so long.
yeah. No, and I thought what Flanagan did with uh, Doctor Sleep was good.
Yeah.
But again, Flanagan's a much different
Yes.
director and writer. So I think that it's a different sensibility for sure. So it's just I don't know. It's one of those things where you know I appreciate that we all can enjoy different facets of horror. What I like, some people might not like. Not everybody loves The Evil Dead like I do. Nobody likes, lots of people love Scream, but that's, but some people. So, but here's my hot take, and everybody already knows this, but I'm a big Scream 3 fan, and most people don't like Scream 3. But that's because they're wrong. No, but
That's my sacrilegious thing is I have not seen a single Scream film. I have
oh,
gone this entire time without seeing any of the Scream
wow.
movies, and I don't know how. It's like I'm like, oh, I should sit down and watch this. I love Matthew Lillard. Like I grew up in the age of the live action Scooby-Doo
Yeah.
movies, and so like I
You're
have a
missing a
long standing
prime.
live.
You're missing a
I
prime piece of his
know.
filmography. Okay,
I
you got to at
know.
least watch the first one.
Yeah, so it's been on my list of things to do because like that's the thing is like I'm one of those annoying people that I love Five Nights at Freddy's. Like I have a like $100 like lettered Leatherman jacket. Like I like that's a FNAF
Wow.
themed. I have the books, I've played the games, I have the action figures. And so when I saw Matthew Lillard, I'm like, oh yeah, this movie's gonna be awesome. And it's an awful movie, but I've seen it like 6 times.
I've seen it once. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great either. So
No, it's not. I literally my Peacock app, my profile name is only here for Freddy. Like, but
I
I've
mean,
seen it so many times, and it's like it's not good, but I'm having a
I
blast.
I agree with Angel. The best Five Nights at Freddy's movie is Willy's Wonderland. So
I really liked the Banana Splits movie. I
that
had
is
fun with that
that is an
one.
okay one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
one
mean,
that one's got some issues with it, but it's not too bad. But see, again, I grew up in the era of the banana splits. I remember
right.
watching that as a kid. So that's how old I am. And so, it's different for me. There's definitely a nostalgia factor to that one. I'm surprised they allowed them to make a horror
I
movie out of
did
those characters.
too.
That is insane to me.
With a Fallout Boy cover of the theme song. Oh, it was excellent.
Oh, it's just insane to me that they
It's
allowed
so
them to do that.
insane.
But it's great. I love that. It was like, what are they going to do next? A Sesame Street movie, like a horror movie?
No, we ended up with Winnie the Pooh.
I know. God.
I
There's-
can't.
yeah, no, I'm not ever watching
No,
those. They look like they
no.
look like crap. I've never even seen a trailer because they just look like they're terrible. So, and they're
Yeah.
trying to create a whole universe out of
Oh
like
yeah, Bambi's
stuff now.
next.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun times. But yeah, no, it's FNAF is one of those things. And if you wanted to ever do a deep dive with like point by point lore, I could do it and I'd be happy to do it. Like that's my thing.
Yeah,
I
I
love
don't.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, I see. I've never gotten into any of that too. Like my daughter really liked a couple of the games in the beginning, but she fell off of it really quick, so never became a huge thing for her. But I know people love that stuff.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, then again, it's all subjective and it's all whatever you like. And
yeah,
I like animatronics, possession movies, and Kristen Stewart. Those are my three things that I need.
yeah. I mean,
So,
that makes sense. Given the stuff you write about. So
right. Yeah. I'm guilty.
all right. Well, that's all I have to say about these two movies. I think they're both good.
Yep.
I don't think either one of them is great. They both have issues, but they both have things that I like about them. And so but I did want to talk about them in conversation with each other because so many people did talk about them in conversation with each other.
Yeah.
And I thought it would make for a good conversation at least. So, but
Mhm.
so thank you for coming on and talking. This has been a great time.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll
That
have
had
to,
fun.
yeah, we'll have to get you on again for another episode.
I am always available. I'm a single cat lady that does nothing but watches FNAF theory videos on YouTube at home. So,
Don't tell me
I
that.
have,
You'll become a regular.
I have time. I have plenty of
Well,
time.
there you go.
So
All right. Why don't you let people know where they can find you online?
I am maybe Mockingbird everywhere except for Twitter because Twitter has a character limit for your names. So it's May B, the letter B, Mockingbird. So it's one character too long. And my website is disturbances.alicia.weebly.com, which has all of my things. So pretty easy to find.
Awesome. Yeah, go check out her books and all of that. And go follow her online.
I post fun stuff.
Yeah.
I post Terrifier memes on Instagram like daily. So if you want that stuff.
Do you? I was just trying to look it up. I didn't.
I do. I see. I usually like when we like scrolling
Must be
at
in
like
your
3 o'clock
story.
in the morning. Yeah, it's like usually in my story. I'm just like reposting like Terrifier.
That's too funny. Yeah.
4 trips to the post office. Those are my two modes.
I'm so bad at Instagram these days. It used to be like my main for like a long time. Twitter's always been my basic main for like since I started. And I've been on Twitter for almost from the very beginning. But I was on Instagram. I'm still on Instagram, but I was on Instagram for a long time, and that became my like focus for a while. But I'm so not focused on it anymore, which I feel bad about because I probably really should be doing more like promotion and stuff on there too. So I'm
Yeah,
just terrible at it.
I had a video that accidentally went semi-viral on TikTok. So TikTok became my main platform, and I
Oh yeah.
don't enjoy that.
Oh man.
It was like great.
Yeah.
That means I have to like carve out like 2 hours every week to like put on makeup and record so I have a video for at least 5 days of the week. It's different outfit changes and closed captioning and adding sounds. And it's like a 2 to 3 hour thing every single week. I'm like, why did this happen to me? I was like,
Oh
can I go back to
man.
Twitter?
Yeah, right?
What does
Yeah.
it think?
I can't like I don't I'm not interesting enough to do anything on
Same.
Twitch.
I'm like, I was like, no, people don't want to see me. I had one video go viral. That's all it only got me like 5,000 followers and spent like overnight, which is cool. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah. No. I don't know. Like I'll watch I'll watch TikTok. But I try not to get on it too much because I do what everybody else does. I fall into a TikTok hole, and
Yep.
2 hours later, I'm like, "What the hell am I doing with my life?" So I
Yeah,
try to stay out of there.
ended up on reading Reddit stories side of TikTok, and that's a rabbit hole you can get down. Is like watching people like sit down and read like horrible Reddit stories of
Yeah.
people doing awful things. I'm like, oh, next thing I know, it's like the sun's coming up and the birds are out. I'm like, what happened?
It's too funny. Oh man, no, yeah, I try to stay away from that, but yeah, definitely go follow Al wherever she is, including TikTok apparently.
Yes, so much.
We'll try to send some audience your way, so you have to keep doing it. All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely have to get you back on again soon.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like fun.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again to Al for joining me. Next week, Donna will be here for the entire episode to talk about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Thanks for listening. If you like what you've heard, please consider giving the show 5 stars and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And share the podcast on social media to help spread the word. Make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app or at creepyandgeeky.com. Music for the podcast is Gratitude, composed by Harper Smith. You can follow the podcast by going to creepyandgeeky.com and clicking on any of the social links. If you'd like to follow me, you can find my links at geekthulu.com. You can support the podcast by ordering teas and more on TeePublic or by donating to the coffee page. All of the links are in the show notes. Finally, don't forget, stay creepy.